Do I?
Okay. Welcome everyone, executive committee meeting, September 9th. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, indeed. Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Crimer?
Here.
Ms. Mail?
Here.
Mr. Michelson? Here. Ms. LaFalle?
Here. All right, thank you. Sorry about no agenda being sent. I was out of town from the last meeting till this week. So we have a proposed agenda. Thank you, Eric, for putting that together. I think you all have a copy in front of you just to talk about. New business would be the framework that Zach was tasked with preparing for us. And old business would be the administrator's goals that were tabled from last time. Does anybody have anything else to add or modify?
I may be requesting an executive session, but I'm still working on figuring out whether it fits within the what we're allowed to have an executive session about. So if you will allow me to, as I'm figuring that out, bring it up if I figure it out during the session, just so everyone knows up.
Yep, we can leave it off the agenda and then call it if needed. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as it is?
Motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. All right, and next, if we can approve the minutes from the August 19th meeting. Everyone's had a chance to review those. Is there a motion to approve or any edits?
Motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
You can sign the copy that you have. Do you have a blue pen?
I have no things.
Okay, I will provide you with one shortly.
Your email finally came through this morning.
All right. Zach, would you like to walk us through your proposed language?
We'll take it.
Sure. So in previous executive committee meetings, the topic of when and how council members should utilize the village solicitor in crafting legislation has come up. And I was tasked with coming up with a kind of like a rough draft framework for how we could operate as a council. And I'll just read out, I think it's fairly bland and straightforward. It says, as a legislative body of the village, council members may bring any legislation up for discussion to the full council. Preferably, these discussions will first take place in the appropriate committee in order to ensure any new legislation has had the time to be fully considered. Council members shall only utilize the village solicitor in crafting legislation, legislative research, or other such billable tasks with the approval of the mayor, the village administrator, or by a simple majority vote of council. The issues that we had discussed before was kind of legislation being brought up and asking to be crafted by the solicitor without really anyone having to even discuss the legislation. So in past times it hadn't even moved past committee yet. We're still on the hook for those billable hours. We didn't even get to talk about the topic yet. So I think, this leaves room for when it is an actual need that the council can come together and vote and pass it, or with the mayor's approval, and also the village administrator who typically has, his ear to the ground and all the things that are going on in the village. If there's any, changes or edits or questions, I'm happy to, keep working on it, but I think it's fairly straightforward. And
when you say simple majority, that would be 4?
yeah,
Okay.
be 4 of 6.
And if I'm reading this, it's the mayor and the administrator have to?
It's
Or
ors.
do we need an or there?
Yeah, grammar's not my strong suit. I'll take,
Or
walls on that,
yeah.
That's what I thought. I heard you say, but that's what I just wanted to.
Yeah, so
I think
It has a comma there.
It has a comma, but you want to go to court with that?
It says or. It's
It says
there
or,
yeah.
approval of the mayor, comma, the village administrator.
comma,
Or
or
simple
simple
majority.
majority.
I would read that as the mayor and the village administrator.
No.
Whatever.
Where's Rob?
When you have four, you only,
Stick
any
it to the
town was
Supreme
before.
Court.
it's four.
Anyway, my question there is, should that be the majority of council or should it be committee? Because a lot of this we talked about in the previous one, first take place in appropriate committees. So it feels right that, we agreed last time we met as a committee to direct something to Rob. So it does feel appropriate that we could do it as the majority of committee as well. Was my only thought.
Yeah, I was actually thinking just 3 members of council, because we need 3 to call a special session. Is that what just to keep it in line with some of the, so basically if 3 people on council support that legislation,
Mhm.
as opposed to 4, whether they're in the same committee or not, I was thinking 3, because I think it's
Yeah, okay,
just more in line with some of the other,
sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to be
Bless
clear,
you.
we had hashed this out when we talked about the rules of order, or rules of council, or whatever we want to call them. If this does not stop us from talking to Mr. Sturt if we have concerns or issues, but this is specific to legislation.
yeah.
Okay, just wanted to reiterate that. Yeah, I think if we just add in the information about committee, majority of committee, or 3 of committee, or whatever we want to say that is,
What do you guys, what do you think? Would you prefer majority or 3? Maybe majority because committee numbers vary.
I was gonna say you might run into trouble if you're saying 4, because technically 4 people talking to one another is a violation of.
it would happen in a committee.
No,
It shouldn't.
that would have to happen in council.
Okay.
So if it's of council, then it would have to happen in council meetings. If it's of committee, then
Now, of committee, do we start drafting the legislation once it leaves committee or once it hits council? That's the question on the table. Do we wait until council, we have a majority of council that says, okay, go ahead, let's draft it? Or do we say, once a committee spoke about it and was ready to move it up, then you start to draft it?
I think once it moves out of committee, it goes to draft legislation. So for example, the conflict of interest, we talked about that in committee. We've got that drafted. Rob, at the next council meeting, we'll be able to give him the directive to draft that from executive committee, and then it would go back to the full council. That's my thought, is that,
The question was whether drafts should be requested from committee or to meaning only before they actually come to council. Is that what I understood the question was?
Well, no, that's what I was saying.
Right.
If we need a simple majority, that means that we have to wait till council meeting. If we're trying to let committee do it, then we have to limit it.
And
Or
Ms.
the
Primer
majority of
said,
the committee, but
That's what I was thinking,
I
majority
think
of
it's
committee and
majority
3
of
of council. Is what my head
Yeah,
is.
because technically, as the legislators, we could just bring it straight to council and bypass committee.
right,
It's, that's why I said it would be nice if we bring it in committee first, but, so you probably need a provision for if it's brought to a committee, majority of committee, that probably sounds good because the numbers are variable by committee, and then council would be 3 of council.
I like that.
Yeah, I
council
agree
has
with
to
that.
be, council should be a majority of council, simple majority.
Well, it's not to pass the legislation,
Yeah,
it's
it's not
just
that,
to
it's just
say,
to initiate,
if we.
like spending Rob's
There's
money,
not much
basically.
of a difference.
No,
Either
there's
we're
not.
gonna agree on it or we don't agree on it.
so the
Well, 3 of
number,
us could be in agreement, and then the mayor could tie it if I want to propose legislation to chew bubblegum every Wednesday.
Also, maybe we bring something in council and say, Rob, we need you to do research. Is this even legal for us to do? And you could say, yes, it is, or no, it's not. So, I mean,
Yeah. Okay, so are we clear on the edits?
the edit that I heard was a simple majority vote of council. No, I'm sorry, that was the original draft. So Ms. Crimer is suggesting the language should reflect requests from committees, which would indicate a majority of committee. Now, there was a concern about when committees have 4 members, as this one does not. So I guess are we,
No, we were,
was that a
the
question?
4 number came in from council. Are we
Oh.
also gonna require a simple majority of council, or would 3 members of council?
So the recommendation that I'm understanding from the executive right now is just a majority of committee.
Majority, a simple majority of, committee, and, or any 3 members of council.
So 4 ors essentially, 4 options.
You got 4 ways of doing it. Did you have something?
And I just wanted clarity on that, and I got it. Sounds good.
I'm happy with
Is
that.
anybody in disagreement with how I regurgitated the conversation?
I mean, I like a simple majority of council, but I'm also okay with 3. I mean,
No, it makes sense.
because I mean, otherwise, I mean, it still needs to go to a vote for council
Still
anyway,
does.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 3 technically with the mayor could pass it, so then 3 should be able to write it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay, great. So that closes that. And then the-
Do you want me to write it up with the edits, or do we just feel Eric comfortable with adding those?
I can add it, but the question is, what's the action item after that?
Yes,
Do
it
we
has,
have-
yes, this is enough.
Do we have majority to send it to solicitor?
Ooh.
Yes.
That's literally what it should be done.
And at
We
least
need to-
3 members of council.
No, why not? The meeting, this should go to rules
This
of
is the
council.
process, right, yeah.
Right, that is
Yeah.
literally the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation,
Sorry, so I was hearing you saying there's 4 different ways. What I just now heard was that if a majority of a committee wants to send it to the attorney, first it has to go to council, and then 3 members of council after this. That's
No.
not correct.
No.
No,
Right, okay.
Yeah, they're all independent paths.
so what we're saying is these 3 as council members could just decide to do it either way, or we as a majority of council, or this committee could do it,
And
But
also
yes.
3.
or this.
In this
right.
particular case, but for
Or-
finance, it's 2.
Yeah, and that gives like a resident a little, like, say I don't support it. I mean, it wouldn't work in this committee, but I don't support it and she does. That gives her essentially an equal vote if it's on a committee.
Right,
so
so I think what we could do is, it sounds like this passed, we can take a formal vote on it and then send it to, if you wanna finalize the edits, please, Zach.
Sure.
Send it over to Rob. Or I'm actually slightly confused on that, because I was told last time with the conflict of interest, I couldn't direct work to Rob unless it was in the full council meeting and I gave it in my executive report. So
So
I think
that's
that
where I
was
was
just shenanigans.
No, that's what I was confused about.
Right,
I'm not
so-
sure which path we're taking now. Does it always have to go through council or committees consent?
I don't think it does. That was, I think, shenanigans.
So then we could
yeah,
start that across the board.
That was the whole reason that we were putting together this proposal.
So Zach, if you wanna re-update your draft,
Done.
Well,
do
so
you
actually,
wanna send it to me?
How
and
many-
then I'll
Yeah, I'll
send
send it out. What?
How many or-
that makes sense, that should
Just
go to
one.
committee head. Committee head communicates directly with the solicitor on that.
Yes, and I'll copy.
by 3
Yeah.
members of council.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
or by.
Would we like to take a formal vote,
I like
just so we're
that.
clear and Eric has it for the minutes?
Yes.
You want to reread the language and then we'll vote on it?
Sure.
How would you make it a motion?
So are we referring this to,
So make a motion, I would like to report, blah, blah, blah,
but
blah.
are we referring it to full council?
No, we're referring it to the solicitor
Okay.
as
And
like,
the full council.
well.
Well, as legislation or as
After.
rules of council? Or rules of council, we can just pass it in full council. We
We
don't,
got to, yeah, we need to make sure that this is kosher, and then we're gonna go and send it to full council.
all right, so I'll make a motion to have the village solicitor review our proposed addition to the rules of council as follows. As the legislative body of the village, council members may bring any legislation up for discussion to the full council. Preferably, these discussions will first take place in the appropriate committee in order to ensure any new legislation is at the time to be fully considered. Council members shall only utilize the village solicitor in crafting legislation, legislative research, or other such billable tasks with the approval of the mayor, the village administrator, by 3 members of council, or by a simple majority of a committee.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, so Zach, if you wanna draft that, send it to me, and then I can send it to Rob
So
along
actually,
with our conflict of interest.
He read it, I already put it in the minutes, I can just send it to
Great.
Rob if that works. Who was the motion to, that was the motion, who was the second, was Melody?
it. Yeah. So question though, why does this even have to go to Rob if it's just going to rules of council?
We have to make sure it's in accordance with the law.
Gotcha. And another thing, just back up when I said that example wouldn't work in here, it actually would. Say neither 2 of us as members of council don't want it. But y'all two do, and she still does, that's three, without being three members of council.
Mhm.
Okay, so that definitely gives you a lot of power, resident.
All the power. All right, thank you all for that. The next thing we have is the administrator's goals. Stefan, did you want to?
Yes, so I believe the proper wording is that I'd like a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion.
You have to
demotion.
pick one, you can't use all of them.
My understanding is you have to pick one of the four, and one of them lists all of those.
I believe what Rob has directed us in the past is like, we can't say to consider all of those things under number one. We have to be specific to one of those items.
Okay, that's not my reading of it, but I
Okay.
would rather be correct than make a big mistake, so I will pull it off to the end of the month.
Does anybody else have a different interpretation? That's just what I believe Rob has told us in the past. So I don't wanna,
Is it my reading, it says the motion or vote should specify one or more of the purposes set forth in paragraph A1 of this rule. And it says.
Right, so
Yeah,
A1.
No, I'm wrong. Yes, I'm totally wrong. Sorry.
so is there any one of those in number one that you feel you would fall under?
If I could say that I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session for matters of employment.
Right,
Okay,
of a public employee.
okay. So the mayor would like us to move into executive session to discuss matters of employment for a public employee. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Great, thank you. All in favor?
I
Actually, I believe we need a roll call. Is that correct? To move into
Yes.
executive?
Probably.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have a roll call, please, Eric?
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson,
Yes.
Ms. LaFawn.
Yes.
Great, and we will invite the mayor into executive session, but Eric will ask you to step out, please.
I will happily.
And just let us know
Now,
when we're offline too.
Yes, that would be an important piece. Give me 1 second. I just want to take this.
Anybody check their email and see if they got that now?
Yep.
Did get it?
yeah,
All right.
Okay. Okay,
I knew when I said it, you didn't hear me, you didn't look up.